Okay, yay, we are live. Hi, everyone. I'm Robyn Young. I am a member of Embark.live, and I am doing this live today to give you a little preview on a workshop that I have coming up later this afternoon called Brand Marketing, How to Thrive in a New Digital Era. So for today's session, I'm just going to be focusing on a few of the key elements of brand strategy. Now, why am I doing this? Well, it's because I am a brand strategist. So I started my creative agency in 2016, and since then I have worked on 50 brands, 50 plus brands, and it's been on a combination of both strategy, which we work with everyone on, as well as creative development. So once you have the strategy, it's really just about executing that strategy across your creative assets and marketing. So I've been teaching this course for probably about 3 years. I taught it at my alma mater General Assembly, where I worked before starting my company. And it's, I've taught it probably to about 200 students now. It's evolved over time, and I've definitely refreshed it to be more relevant today. But the content is still very much applicable to, brands and the digital landscape that we're seeing today. So let me dive right in. And by the way, if you all have questions, feel free to just chat them to me, and I will come back to them at the end and hopefully address as many as I can within the given time. So let's see, what to know about thriving in a new digital market? Well, for starters, it's never been simpler to start a business. I mean, thanks to the World Wide Web, you can sell almost anything online without a storefront, without employees. Gosh, in many cases, you can sell without even having a finished product. We've seen a lot of potential concepts and business ideas sell to, folks who are interested in their concept before they even have the finished product or thing. So that's the good news. At the same time, the hard news is that it's also never been harder to build a brand that stands out. As markets, and nearly every market is this way now, are becoming more and more saturated, and as consumers, viewers, we're seeing more and more advertisements every day, it is really hard to capture the attention of potential customers. Your amount of time of actually gaining that traction is narrowing. You have about 30 seconds, if that, to really capture somebody's attention. So the name of the game is not creating the best product, unfortunately. I see a lot of great products out there that just don't get the traction because they're not clear. And unfortunately, if your idea isn't clearly communicated, it doesn't really matter how great it is. Same thing with your product. If you're not clear about how you solve a problem, who you're speaking to, what you stand for, what your purpose is, you're really just adding to the white noise. It's just become an opportunity lost for you. So unfortunately, it's just not enough. You cannot just depend on the value of your product anymore. It's about how you communicate that product. It's about knowing your audience. It's about understanding the place that you hold in the market, the position that you hold in the market, what sets you apart from your competitors. So that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today in this workshop, which, by the way, I've just been informed is sold out. But the good news is, guys, that since there was such a strong response to this workshop, I am going to be hosting it again. I will work with the Embark.live team to get that figured out. So there will be another one coming. But make sure that you jump on that one because it's likely to sell out as well. Anyhow, so there's a few key components that we're going to be talking about in terms of building out a brand strategy. So when we work with customers, there's a few key things that I need answered before I can do anything else. Now, our strategy builds on top of those things. There's a lot that we work on in strategy that I'm not even covering today because there's just no way to cover everything within the time frame. But I'm giving you the key elements that you need to have before you can really build anything, before you can even think about starting a brand. So the first thing, and it needs to be said here, I think too often folks get very ingrained in having a logo. They put all of their emphasis into the aesthetic or into creating their marketing materials. Let me have you take a huge step back and understand that having a logo does not mean that you have a brand, right? The two are not one and the same. A logo is a representation of your brand, but it is not your brand, right? So first and foremost, the thing that you need is a purpose. You need to understand what your why is. So what this means is, what's your reason for existence beyond just selling product? If you think that you're just selling products and that's your business, you're kind of missing the point when it comes to branding. So purpose goes much farther beyond. Is it about, is it about encouraging a more sustainable world? Is it about challenging the others in your space, in your other competitors in the space? And in what angle are you challenging them? So, part of just figuring out what your lane is figuring out what's important to you. One of the best ways that we recommend that our customers start thinking about this, one of the best ways that you can answer this for yourself, is to really think strategically about your market. What pisses you off about the market? Like, where do you feel like there's this large gaping white hole, of opportunity? And then how can you become the antithesis of everything that already exists? That's generally a really good, solid first way to start thinking about a brand that can be really sticky. So Lemonade being a perfect example of this. So their tagline, forget everything that you know about insurance, and also just like the look and feel of the brand. It starts by understanding that their purpose was about becoming the antithesis to what they felt other insurance companies were, right? And so it's not that people use them because they've got this great look and feel that feels a little bit more, approachable and things like that. They use them because they're very clear in what their position is. They understand who they are in the space that they fill in the market. And then every creative decision that they make is just about further communicating that positioning and that purpose. So the first thing, hands down, the first thing that you need if you're going to build a brand, not just a business, if you're going to build a brand, is you have to understand what your purpose is. Second thing is audience. And you can see how these things kind of go hand in hand. I think one of the main problems that I see in the beginning with a lot of brands is they try and pander, right? And there once was a time when in marketing, we would look at things based off of, okay, my product could be used by anybody who's 18 to 65. Those days are gone. Unless you have an endless budget, you do not have the luxury of pandering to everyone. You must pick a lane. You must figure out your niche and only move on to other markets once you have developed your name within your selected niche. Every successful brand starts with just a single ideal audience, and they've really used that to just capture their attention, to create that brand awareness, to stake their flag in the sand, or however the saying goes. The point is that carving out a niche market and positioning yourself as the go-to for a specific audience not only establishes your credibility over competing generalists, but it also results in a more focused business. From your unique value proposition to your content marketing, it makes it much easier for your right customers to say, they're speaking to me. This is for me. So the more that you can lean into who that audience is and then only expand from there once you've really captured that market, the better off you're going to be in terms of creating a really sticky brand that cuts through the white noise of our digital market. Now, the other thing is your secret sauce, or what we call your secret sauce. A lot of other people know it as a unique selling point or a value prop. So you cannot just be a Me Too brand. You have to be somebody that has something new to offer. You have to have something that's different, and not just different, but different in a valuable way for your customer base. So whatever this looks like, it could be a difference in your product. It could be a difference in your experience. It could be a difference in how you produce the product. Whatever it is, it needs to both be something that's significantly different and also something that has value in its difference. So to give you a perfect example, let's say that you were to start a restaurant that is just like every other restaurant on the block, but you include, green interior, green chairs. Yes, it's different, but it's not different in a way that actually impacts or is valuable to your customers. Do you see what I mean? So I think too often we tend to get caught up in having different features, and the experience, yes, could be, it could include some differences, but it's not valuable enough to make somebody want to switch from something they're already comfortable with. So especially if you're the new guy on the block, you have got to provide a valuable reason for why somebody should, leave something that they know, a brand they're already familiar with something new. How can you build that trust? Well, you have to be, first of all, really clear on what your unique selling point is. What is your secret sauce? And two, you have to be so good at communicating why it's valuable to your customers. There's a lot of interior work that happens in there too that addresses market fit and pain points, and really, again, understanding who your audience is and how to speak to them, how to speak to these to these pain points that they might be experiencing. A lot of times it may not even be directly related to your product. So you have to just be able to put yourself into their shoes and think like your customer. So how well you are actually communicating these three things are the key ingredients to creating a really solid foundation for a brand, not just a business, a brand. Okay, I'm going to leave it there and see if there's any questions from you guys. These are the few key things that we're going to be touching on in today's workshop. And let me go to, let's see. All right, I don't see any questions yet, but if you guys have any. Oh, okay, first question. I have a new product idea that can work for all ages. How do I find the data to zone in on that target market? I agree with the niche market idea, but what's the best avenues to find that audience? Great question. So you can work with a market research company to do this. I always say this with a little bit of a caveat, because while data can give us a really clear picture of what the opportunities are in your market, it doesn't give you the entire picture. There's still a lot of room for interpretation of that data. So I think the best thing you can do is really just get it out there and start testing it. See who that initial product seems to vibe with most, and then formulate your niche around where you see the most opportunity. So I think it's part and part. It's part kind of finding that human data. It's also part building the brand that you're most interested in building. Like, just because the data tells you maybe you should be building this for an older demographic, if that's not who you're passionate about working with, then it's not really going to matter much. You're not really going to have the gumption or passion behind that brand. So in my mind, unless there's like this large gaping hole in the market that you're trying to work with, I think that there's opportunities on either side, right? And that when you're going out to do this research, keep in mind that if you're working on a product that's a disruptor, you're going to be getting data back that's really specific to what's already out there. But if you have a product that could disrupt, then you're not really going to be getting data based off of what what customers might be thinking of your product, right? So a perfect example of this is like, Ford with the car. If he had done, if he had done his market research, people would have told him that they wanted a faster horse. So this is why I say, as much as I value market research and I come from that world, keep in mind that the data only tells you one side of the story. So market research is one way to do it. You can also do your own kind of human data research. You can get some focus groups together that are made up of who you think you want to market to. It's sort of part aspirational, part what are the opportunities in your market. You might also do a CNC analysis. See if there's an area of the market that's not currently being addressed by one of your competitors, because that can also provide some opportunity. Great question, though. I like that one. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking from two different places for for questions here, so bear with me. All righty. I think I just see a lot of folks trying to. Oh, here we go. What are those three things again in bullet? Yep. The three things are your purpose, your audience, and your secret sauce. It would be amazing if these opened up with who you are and a bio company where we can reach you. Yes, so I did actually start with that. My name is Robyn Young. You can reach me on Embark.live, and my company is actually called Robyn Young & Co. It's a creative agency. I started it in 2016, and we worked with over 50 brands. To give you a little bit more insight about me, I started in market research. I've been in marketing and branding for the past 20 years before starting my company. A number of different brands that I've worked for. So on the market research side, I worked with Nike, Target, Robbins Brothers, Oprah's Magazine. I then switched into the creative side of branding. So I was a stylist and creative director for luxury brands as well as luxury media. I then moved over into the digital world in about 2010 or so. That was right when Instagram was making its first splash, and I became a brand manager for influencers. And then after that, I capped off my experience working in branding and marketing for two education companies. The first one was UCLA, and the second was General Assembly. And then after leaving GA, I started my company. So that's the bio and background on me. Let's see. I have a market group in mind, but I'm having a hard time figuring out how to market to them online, apart from Instagram and social media, which is not easy to penetrate. Over 37 urban women. Yeah, so here's the thing to know about digital marketing. Social media channels are becoming inundated. Facebook, Instagram, these are pretty pay to play. So you have to be very strategic and very creative with getting to folks digitally if you're not going to use one of these more traditional platforms. Now, it doesn't mean that there's not a way to do it. In my opinion, I think it's still really valuable to look at some formats that aren't being currently inundated. What's weird is that it seems like there's not a lot of people even utilizing things like direct mail right now. Now, granted, it's all in how you do it. I'm not suggesting to you to be one of those companies that just sends coupons out and that's it. Those things end up in the trash. But if you can fire on, in different areas and find the right timing with the right message and perhaps a channel that's not being utilized as much, you have the capacity to gain that person's attention because they're just kind of taken off guard. They're not expecting this message from you. So what I recommend is, for those of you who aren't well versed in marketing, I highly recommend the book Zag. It's really strong as far as finding those creative ideas, those solutions for, well, everyone else is going this way, you need to be looking this way. That's particularly true for you startups too, who, if you don't have a large budget, if you're bootstrapping, then you got to get creative, or you got to hire somebody that can help you think creatively. Okay, let's see. What else do I want to know here? Which survey apps are best? Do you like SurveyMonkey? Yeah, so I'll use SurveyMonkey or even just like Typeform. You can even just use Google Forms. I'm very bootstrapped with we work with a lot of small businesses and startups in my agency, so we like to keep it really simple. In many cases, we may even, do a small sampling and just do individual interviews. It doesn't really matter what platform you use. It's actually much more important what the content is. What context are you getting these questions answered? Make sure that you actually are clear about who your ideal audience or sampling is so that you're getting the right kind of data, and also leave room for those qualitative answers. Not everything is so black and white. Having, in many cases, the qualitative answers are actually much more enlightening than what you're going to learn in a survey. Good question, though. Also, do you prefer any email blast or subscribe in type apps? I don't know if I understand email blast applications. So again, I think the platform that you use is really just a matter of, from a back end, what is most user friendly and what makes the most sense for your team makeup and also your customer journey flow. What's going to allow you the most. Your answer should always be what's going to allow you the most seamless customer journey. Because at the end of the day, you want something that is very easy for your customers to get to. You don't want them to have to use unnecessary, brain power just to subscribe to your email list or something, right? So don't overthink it. Don't feel like you have to get every fancy tool out there. Use what's simple. Figure out, oh my gosh, especially for you startups, figure out a single ideal journey or, even maybe 1 to 2 channels that you're going to lead these customers through and hone in on that until you really learn who your market is and what they need. Until then, you have no business trying to have a presence on every single platform. Again, also, especially if you have a smaller team, you don't have the time, you don't have the budget, and you don't have the capacity to really have a strong presence. Pick 1 or 2. This is why also knowing your audience is obviously very helpful in this scenario, because you can decide, do I even need a presence on TikTok? Is that really even where my audience is? I know it's super popular and everybody and their mother is on it right now, but if your ideal customer is not on it, or if your ideal customer is not really looking for it to stumble across brands, I mean, it's hard to brand TikTok. It's not that it can't be done, but it's just hard to do. There's not a lot of capacity in the way that there is with Facebook and Instagram for you to really show your value when it's in that short of a time frame. So yes, there's opportunity in everything. And I'd say if you're looking to, market to a much bigger demographic, then great. Maybe that's the channel for you. Maybe you put all of your resources into that, but don't feel that you need to be on it just because everybody's doing it. Let's see. In your experience, is it best to offer a gift or incentive to get them to reply to your surveys or interviews? Or does our backstory help to get them engaged and provide feedback? So it depends. It depends if you're doing something for the first time or if you have an existing customer base. So I'd say if you're doing something for the first time, then yes, incentivize as much as you can. Back in the day when I worked for Gallup and Robinson, we would do gift cards to Target, gift cards to Nike. Obviously, it was low-hanging fruit because that was also the client, so they could afford to give away a certain amount in order to get that data. I think if you are a product brand, you could offer samples, you could offer gift cards to partnering companies. I think if you're an existing brand and as long as you're not pivoting away from your audience, it's actually really beneficial to get your data from existing customers. So, I think if you can find the right customers who are brand loyalists and who, buy from you again and again, figure out what those people want. create a sampling that's just them and more of them, right? Because that's going to give you the insight that you need into, maybe especially right now, figuring out, do they have new needs that you're not addressing? How have things changed for them, particularly as we're in a pandemic right now? How have things changed for them? How have, are they still valuing, prioritizing things the same way as they normally did within your demographic? A lot of you are in the fashion business. So, things like shoes, we're just not buying shoes as much because we're staying at home, and we're not, like, people aren't really seeing that as much. So do you see what I mean? So it's about kind of understanding, have things socially, professionally changed what your customer needs. Getting that data, that feedback it can just help you to create not only like a better marketing strategy, but a better content strategy. At the end of the day, everything should be about, are you either moving the experience forward for existing customers or moving an experience forward for new customers? Really, everything should kind of fit into those two categories. Okay, sorry, I missed a lot of questions here. Okay. Are market surveys a good way to find your market? If so, what's the best way to organize a market survey? So I know we've talked a lot about market research in this, probably because I come from this background. I'm sure that's probably why the questions are coming up. Honestly, it's been a while since I've been in that industry, so I don't feel super well versed in giving you a lot of that information. But I will say this. It will depend on your budget. Market research companies are not cheap to work with. So if you don't have the budget, I would not spend your entire budget just doing the market research. Because again, at the end of the day, you'll never know for sure until you get something out there. So in my mind, and maybe it's because I also come from a tech background where, it's about establishing an MVP and being very agile and, kind of figuring it out as you go and continuing to up the fidelity as you start to figure out more and more about your market. So I tend to be of the mind that, yes, it's great to have market research if you have the budget to get that. If not, if you can find a bootstrapped way to get it yourself through the ways that I just mentioned, then that's going to be the best way, because then you have a little bit more direct insight into what that data is and the quality and the sampling and what it means. Like, almost as important as having the data is figuring out what it means, figuring out how to read it. So make sure that you have somebody who understands how to do that. Is it necessary to have a very narrow definition of my audience? What if I see an opportunity across multiple audiences? Or does that just mean a different marketing strategy for each? So, yes, it is the answer to your question. Yes, it would mean likely a different marketing strategy for each, or at least dynamic copy. Because when you think about even something as simple as, a woman who is 25 has a completely different lifestyle than a woman who's 45 with kids. You know what I mean? Like, they have completely different salary amounts. They have different, buying habits. They have different lifestyles. So even though they may use the same product, how you market your product to them is going to be stronger if you can create a dynamic message for both. When you try and pander, it's too general of a message. So you can do that if you've already got the brand awareness. But when you're at the beginning, the reason that we say to pick a lane, to pick a niche, is because in order for you to compete with these companies that already have brand awareness, you have to be focused. You have to be strategic in your messaging, in your positioning. And the only way to really do that, to create something really sticky that speaks to your audience, is to pick an audience. And then again, you can expand from there. But if you're starting a new company, my recommendation is choose one audience to win right now, and then you can expand from there. Okay. Feel social media burnout, don't we all? I'm kind of old school in a way. Do you offer a worksheet or checklist to flesh out how you can help my biz? Thanks. Yes, so I do offer a worksheet. I will be giving it out to the folks who come to my workshop today. I don't know if Embark would be willing to send that on or make that downloadable for all of you. I will ask them, and we'll see. I'll get back to you on that. Good question. You mentioned the book about marketing and author again. Yes, the book is Zag, and it's by Marty Neumeier. Let's see. Gosh, so many great questions in here. What's the most creative bootstrapping types marketing you've seen? The one that comes to mind is, I believe it was Richard Branson. I think it was in his early days of Virgin. Would be like, you know, would get would be like streaking at parties and you know, using like hot air balloons and things like that. I mean, it's amazing to see some of the more creative ways that people use to, you know, to get brand recognition. Maybe a more recent one that I've seen, which is not necessarily a small company, but I still thought that they're kind of on the up and ups. I think it was Bumble. Bumble did this partnership with a moving company in order to help folks who wanted to get out of their relationships move during quarantine. Now, that may not have been like sold as a bootstrap marketing idea, but I think it's brilliant because at the end of the day, it was a partnership. It was like a short-term thing. It's funny. It's also just very useful. And it's a very different way to market the value of that company, which is, you know, it's meeting somebody new, it's new experiences, it's a new opportunity, it's something new in your life, right? But they looked at, okay, well, how can we help somebody in our ideal audience get there? I imagine they probably recognized that they were speaking to a lot of millennial women, a lot of folks that were probably sharing, you know, apartments with a significant other, and that might have been concerned about the cost or just the, you know, the time or the, you know, inconvenience of moving during a quarantine. And they're like, how can we make this simpler? So you think about it, they're kind of both solving a pain point with a simple partnership and creating a really, you know, guerrilla style marketing, activation. So I thought that was really smart. Yes, the book was Zag. Okay. Average cost for base marketing research. Well, back in the day, I mean, this was like 15, 20 years ago when I worked in it. Was it would depend on the sampling. So if you were looking to have, you know, hundreds or thousands of customers or interviews, then, I mean, it would run you thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. You know, the cheapest that I've ever seen for, you know, granted a pretty small sampling, and this is obviously dependent on, are they helping you to come up with questions? How are they delivering this data back to you? You know, is it just a simple interview, or are they doing, you know, are they doing recorded interviews? There's a lot of context to this question, so it's a little bit difficult to ask. You're going to have to do the research around it. But what I am going to say is that it's easily a couple thousand up to tens and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on what your sampling is and what you're looking to learn from it. Have you read Blue Ocean Strategy? No, I haven't, but I'm very interested. I'm intrigued now. I'm going to add that to my list. Thank you. Okay, I think that was all of the questions. I know we're 5 minutes over here, guys, so I'm going to jump off. Again, I'm sorry, I know my workshop is all filled up for today, but stay tuned. I will see about hosting another workshop with Embark.live. And by the way, you can always visit Embark.live and connect with me. Search for my name. It's Robyn Young, Robyn, and Young spelled like young. So do a search for me. You can engage me there. I've got my hourly rate set up. If you want to work with me, that's the place to do it. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.